On a chilly autumn evening in the quaint town of Ashford, Mark and his girlfriend, Chloe, were sprawled across a well-worn leather sofa, watching a painfully dull reality show about folks competing to bake the perfect Victoria sponge. Mark, tired from a long day as a systems analyst, was ready to call it a night. He leaned over to press a kiss on Chloe's lips, whispering, "Good night. I love you," just like he did every evening. But Chloe didn't respond with the usual warmth. Instead, her face shifted into an unreadable mask, serious and distant. She grabbed the remote, muted the TV, and turned to look at Mark with eyes that cut through the dim living room light. Mark felt his stomach drop like a stone in a pond. He knew this wasn't going to be about what to have for dinner tomorrow. "I like you, Mark," she said, her voice steady but cold. "I really do, but I'm not in love with you." The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp, like a punch to his gut that was oddly precise. More bureaucratic than brutal. This wasn't a breakup. It was a demotion. Chloe was informing him of a change in the terms of their relationship, expecting him to simply click "I agree" and carry on. Mark, being the logical man he was, processed this like a system update. Like, confirmed. Love. Revoked. After a pause, Mark said quietly, "Thanks for the clarification."
No anger, no begging, no desperate playas.
Just calm acceptance. He stood up, left the room, and headed to bed. He felt Chloe's gaze burn into his back, waiting for a meltdown that never came. She was expecting fireworks, but all she got was a quiet, unshakable calm. Lying awake, staring at the ceiling, Mark's phone buzzed. It was a notification from a group chat Chloe had shown him once, her circle of friends, her emotional board of directors. She was reporting back on her brave new relationship model, seeking approval. Mark could almost hear their praise. So mature, so honest, a genius way to have all the benefits without the messy love. Chloe thought she'd outsmarted the system, renegotiated the contract in her favor. But she had unknowingly triggered the termination clause. She downgraded Mark from boyfriend to roommate, and Mark was about to become the most efficient, unemotional roommate she'd ever had. The game was on. Chloe set the rules. Mark planned to play by them brutally and with absolute precision. A week had passed since Chloe's bold confession, and Ashford's crisp mornings felt colder somehow. Mark had initiated what he quietly called the roommate protocol, a carefully calibrated withdrawal of all the tender attentions that once defined their relationship. That first morning after the announcement, when the early sun filtered through thin curtains, Mark didn't lean over to kiss Chloe awake. Instead, he slipped quietly out of bed, his bare feet padding across the hardwood floor. In the kitchen, he brewed a pot of coffee, the rich aroma filling the air like a silent declaration. He poured himself a mug, then filled a thermos to take to work, leaving the empty pot on the counter. A subtle but unmistakable message. The man who had made her coffee every morning had vanished. The roommate who shared the kitchen did not. Mark dressed meticulously, opting for a sharp navy shirt tucked into dark jeans and polished brown brogues. His watch gleamed on his wrist, a gift from a past Christmas, its face ticking steadily, reminding him of the precise timing of his new routine. As he left the apartment, he tossed over his shoulder a simple, "Have a good day," as neutral and polite as a colleague saying goodbye at the office. No kiss, no "I love you," just civility. For the first few days, Chloe seemed relieved, even cheerful, basking in the newfound freedom of a relationship without pressure. She flitted around the apartment in oversized sweaters and leggings, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, her feet clad in fluffy slippers that looked like they belonged on a cat. She was getting everything she wanted. His stability, his home, his income, without any of the messy emotional strings. But the cracks began to appear. On Friday afternoon, she sent a text. "Hey, the girls and I are thinking of trying that new Italian place tonight. Can you book us a table for 8? Mark paused, then typed back, "Sorry, I'm busy tonight. You should call them directly. They're usually booked up." A single question mark arrived seconds later. Mark didn't reply. He was at the gym, a new habit he'd picked up, filling his evenings with solitary runs and the rhythmic clatter of weights. A week ago, he wouldn't have missed an opportunity to plan their night out. Now he was rewriting the code of their coexistence. That weekend, the roommate protocol kicked into full gear. Mark did his laundry, only his laundry, and went grocery shopping for himself. He bought thick ribeye steaks, fresh chicken breasts, and enough kale to make a rabbit jealous. But none of Chloe's favorite snacks, no artisan gluten-free bread, no pricey almond milk. He carefully placed his groceries on his designated shelves in the fridge and pantry, leaving her side conspicuously bare. Chloe wandered into the kitchen, brow furrowed, clutching a mug. "Did you go shopping?" she asked, voice tentative. "Yep," Mark replied, slicing chicken with surgical precision. "You didn't get any of my stuff. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation," he said, without looking up. "Oh, sorry," Mark said with the polite disinterest of someone who just caught you cutting in line at the grocery store. "I just grabbed what was on my list. I can text you a photo of the receipt so you know what your half of the shared stuff comes to." Shock and outrage flickered across Chloe's face. For 2 years, Mark had absorbed the grocery bills without a whisper. The man who loved her had disappeared, replaced by a roommate who expected fair payment. By Sunday, the tension was palpable. Chloe's car had been making a rattling noise for days. She came into Mark's home office, leaning against the doorframe like a child unsure whether to ask for a favor or a pardon. "My car's acting up again," she said. "I think you should take a look. I don't want to get ripped off by some mechanic." Mark swiveled his chair slowly, face calm, voice neutral. "That sounds stressful. It's a good idea to get a few quotes before any major repairs. Yelp's great for finding reputable shops." He turned back to his screen. Silence stretched. Chloe stood, stunned, realization dawning. The man who would have spent his Sunday under the bonnet of her car, the man with a trusted mechanic on speed dial, was gone. The roommate was busy. She finally huffed and left. Mark wasn't being cruel. He was literal. She said she liked him, so he treated her like a friend, a roommate. Friends get advice. Lovers get time and care. The currency of love, acts of service, spontaneous gestures, was no longer in circulation. She'd devalued their emotional economy to zero. Now, the system was simply balancing itself. Chloe's bright laughter and casual jabs in conversation began to grow quieter, replaced by an undercurrent of panic. She was starting to see that taking love off the table meant he was removing the whole place setting. The silence in their once vibrant apartment was growing louder than her words ever had, and Mark? He was just getting started. A month had slipped by since Chloe's quiet declaration, and Ashford's golden leaves were turning brittle beneath a colder sky. The roommate protocol wasn't just holding steady. It was evolving into a slow, relentless force of nature, exposing the fragile cracks in Chloe's carefully constructed world. Mark's politeness had shifted from a curious novelty to a relentless, unbreakable wall. Where once Chloe might have expected warmth, surprise, or even a flicker of jealousy, now all she received was calm, cheerful neutrality. It was like trying to get a reaction from a well-programmed chatbot. Pleasant, helpful, and utterly devoid of passion. Her birthday came and went without fanfare. In past years, Mark had orchestrated grand surprises. A weekend at a countryside inn, a bouquet of lilies delivered to her work, a dinner reservation at her favorite bistro. But this year, when morning light spilled across their bedroom, Mark simply rolled over and said, "Happy birthday, Chloe. Hope you have a great day," before slipping out to start his routine. Chloe lay in bed, eyes wide, disbelief etched across her face as she watched him move with detached efficiency. She searched his expression, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Flowers, breakfast, a hint of celebration. Nothing came. Finally, she shuffled into the kitchen where Mark was blending a protein shake, the whir of the blender filling the space between them. "So?" she began, voice tentative. "Any plans for my birthday?" Mark turned with a mild, friendly smile. "Nope, just work and then the gym. Did you have something in mind?" She hesitated. "I thought maybe we'd do something, together." Mark's smile deepened, but with an edge of practiced indifference. "I figured you'd be celebrating with your friends, the people you're close with. I'm happy to grab a pizza and watch a movie tonight, like friends do, but I didn't want to assume you didn't have bigger plans." The word, friends, hung in the air, sharp and deliberate, a carefully aimed dart. Birthday celebrations were for people in love. People who just liked each other got casual pizza nights. That evening, Chloe scrolled through her phone alone on the couch, the glow casting shadows on her face. Her friends had posted happy birthday, Queen, on social media, but none had made plans to celebrate with her. The apartment felt colder, emptier. Financial realities soon tightened their grip. Chloe's phone service was abruptly cut off one morning. Panicked, she approached Mark. Right, he said, glancing up from his laptop. I took my card off the family plan since we're not really a family anymore. You'll have to set up your own account. Her face drained of color. She had no steady job, just sporadic freelance graphic design gigs that barely covered her shopping sprees. She'd been living on the financial goodwill of a man in love. Now, she was a roommate behind on her share. Chloe's frustration grew desperate. She tried to provoke Mark, leaving her things scattered like booby traps. A lipstick-stained napkin here, a half-empty bottle of wine there. But Mark didn't bite. He neatly piled her clutter on her side of the bedroom, a silent but unmistakable boundary. She blasted mournful songs through the speakers. Mark slipped on noise-canceling headphones and buried himself in a book. The emotional tug-of-war had become a one-sided standoff. Then came the night of escalation. Chloe returned from a night out, cheeks flushed from a few drinks, wearing one of Mark's oversized flannel shirts and nothing else, the way she used to when she wanted to draw him close. She perched on the edge of the bed, tears spilling down her cheeks. I miss you, she whispered, voice trembling. I miss us. Mark closed his book, regarding her with the mild concern of a neighbor whose cat just ran away. Sounds like you're having a tough time, he said gently. Have you thought about talking to a therapist? Sometimes it helps to have an impartial third party. His tone was clinical, detached, like offering medical advice for a broken leg. Chloe's tears stopped, replaced by a wide-eyed look of dawning horror. She was no longer facing a heartbroken lover. She was confronting a system operating exactly as designed. She had set the terms. She had defined the relationship. And now she was trapped in the cold, logical void she created. Panic crept in. The silence grew louder than any argument. And somewhere deep inside, the final system crash loomed like a gathering storm. But the worst was yet to come. The lease renewal notice sat on the kitchen counter like an ominous invitation. Mark had left it there deliberately, its crisp white paper stark against the worn oak surface. The apartment, once Chloe's sanctuary, their shared haven, had become a silent battleground, each corner echoing with the absence of what once was. That evening, Mark returned from the gym to find Chloe sitting at the table, eyes heavy with sleepless nights, staring blankly at the lease offer. The soft glow of the overhead light cast long shadows, tracing the lines of exhaustion etched across her face. She looked up as he entered, voice barely above a whisper. We need to talk about this. Mark set down his gym bag, his posture relaxed but resolute. Okay, what's on your mind? Are we renewing the lease? Chloe's face paled, the color draining like paint from a canvas. I'm not, he said softly, the words deliberate and final. What? What do you mean you're not? Her voice cracked with disbelief. Where are we going to live? She asked, desperation creeping in. Mark's eyes met hers steadily. I'm not sure where you'll live, Chloe, but I've already signed a lease on a new place, a one-bedroom closer to my office. I move in on the 1st. The weight of his words hit her like a cold wave. The final pieces of her world crumbled visibly in her eyes. This wasn't a Cold War anymore. It was an eviction notice. Plans for a shared future were now just dust in the wind. You're leaving me? She stammered, the absurdity of the words hanging between them. Mark feigned confusion with a gentle smile. Leaving you? No. Our living arrangement is simply ending. We're roommates, remember? And leases don't usually get renewed if one party is moving out. I found a place that suits me better. I assumed you'd do the same, he added, voice even. That was the moment the dam broke. Tears, anger, and a carefully crafted victimhood poured out in a torrent. This isn't fair, she screamed, pushing back from the table so hard her chair scraped the floor. You're being cruel. You're punishing me. I told you I made a mistake. I told you I loved you. No, you didn't, Mark corrected calmly. You told me you missed me. You never said you loved me. But that's beside the point. You told me very clearly you were not in love with me. I believed you. I accepted it and adjusted my life accordingly. I'm not punishing you, Chloe. I'm respecting your honesty. She sobbed, clutching the edge of the table, desperate to rewind time. I want things to go back to the way they were. I'm sure you do, Mark said, his voice hardening with a quiet steel. You want the man who loved you, the man who cooked for you, planned surprises, paid your bills, took care of you, all back. But without the one thing he needed in return, love. You wanted a unicorn, Chloe, a devoted partner who demanded nothing. That's not a relationship. That's a service. And I'm no longer in service. He let his words hang in the air, watching her finally comprehend the irreversible truth. This was no game. It was a final system shutdown. Then, for the final act, Mark walked to the counter and picked up a small velvet box that had arrived that afternoon. Chloe's eyes flickered with desperate hope. A grand gesture, a sign he was still in love. With deliberate slowness, Mark opened the box. Inside was not a ring, but a single, shining key on a simple metal ring. This, he said, holding it up, is the key to my new apartment. I'm really excited about it. It's got a great view. The hope in Chloe's eyes died instantly, replaced by a look so empty, so utterly defeated, it was almost painful to watch. She had gambled everything, believing his love was an endless resource to be switched on and off at will. Now she saw it came with one simple condition. It had to be returned. She didn't say a word. She sank back into her chair, eyes locked on the lease renewal. Now her problem alone. Mark left her there, retreating to his office to work. The silence that filled the apartment wasn't loud anymore. It was just empty. 30 days remained. 30 days as roommates. Then he would be free. Chloe had gotten exactly what she wanted. A life with a man who wasn't in love with her. But as Mark sat at his desk, the key cold in his hand, a message flickered on his phone. A cryptic text from an unknown number. You think it's over? You have no idea what just started. The screen dimmed. The real game was only beginning. The whisper of the message lingered in Mark's mind long after his phone went silent. He stared at the screen, the words glowing faintly in the darkened room. You think it's over? You have no idea what just started. An unknown number. No name. No clue. Ashford's quiet streets outside seemed suddenly ominous, as if the very air held a secret waiting to unravel. Mark's fingers hovered over the keyboard, but his usual calm was disrupted by a flicker of unease. Was this a prank, a mistake, or something far more deliberate? Meanwhile, Chloe sat in the empty apartment, the lease renewal still crumpled on the table beside her. Her reflection stared back from the window. Tired eyes, tangled hair, the oversized shirt hanging loosely on her frame. She was a woman stripped bare of illusions, grappling with the wreckage of a love she'd dismantled herself. Yet, beneath the defeat, a flicker of something else stirred, something darker, sharper. A determination not to be the victim in this story. She pulled her phone close, fingers trembling as she typed a reply to the mysterious message. What do you mean? Who is this? No immediate answer came, but the silence was anything but peaceful. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the window panes like a warning. The quiet of the night was shattered by a sudden knock at the door. Soft, deliberate. Mark glanced toward the entrance, heart pounding. He wasn't expecting company. Not now. Not ever. When he opened the door, no one was there. Just a small envelope lying on the welcome mat. He picked it up slowly, the paper cold against his palm. Inside, a single note read, "Sometimes, love is just the beginning of the game. Think carefully about your next move." Mark's mind raced. The neat, clinical world he'd built was fracturing. The logical system he trusted was being hacked. Not by Chloe, not by heartbreak, but by something else entirely. As the first chills of night seeped into the room, Mark realized the story was far from over. The rules had changed, the players were shifting, And the stakes had never been higher. Ashford's quiet streets had secrets yet to be told. And Mark was right in the middle of them.